What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Bain, Break It Down Forex. It's your boy, Big Bain in this thing. You guys guessed it, another week, another opportunity for us to make some money in the Forex market. So let's get right to it, all right? Oh, before we hop into it, all right, guys, this week, economic news dropping, but it's not much, all right? Tuesday, we got something popping with the odd dollar, all right? CPI is coming out. So make sure to take a look at your odd pairs for your trading opportunities, all right? That news drops 9:30 p.m., right? So just know that's later on that night, not anytime during our normal trading sessions, all right? But odd CPI will be major for the odd pair. So guys, make sure to take a look at that, all right? Monday and Wednesday, we got nothing, all right? So those 2 days, we should see clean, smooth price action on whichever pair you happen to trade. But that Tuesday is when CPI drops for odd dollar, all right? Then we pick it up on Thursday with news for the dollar as well as news for the CAD. They got GDP, we got GDP, and we also have PCE. So GDP on Thursday and PCE on Friday, all right? But the dollar and the CAD, right, are going to be going on those days. So clearly you should know what pair to look at already, all right, as well as whatever other CAD pairs you may have set up, all right? So those will go off this week. Look out for that, all right? Now we can get to it. Boom, over on the dollar. Simply, guys, we've, broken, we made our high. We've broken the high, made our new high, and we've pulled back to our key point of interest, guys. We had a nice engineered move where they engineered liquidity, right? They built it up very nice and pretty, stair-stepping action, and then news that Thursday or Friday, I believe, Powell spoke. Then we got the drop, all right, guys, that swept the liquidity that was sitting behind this up move as well as behind these equal lows here. You can see that it took it to the T, all right, tapped right into demand. Guys, now it's time to rise, all right? So we're going to get a nice push from this demand level, potentially breaking this high, and then obviously the one that it made previously. So I am expecting the dollar to absolutely rise this week. Expected the same thing last week, but the news had other plans in terms of forming manipulation, all right? So that's all over with. Now we're going to get the push up on the dollar, guys, and every other pair that we kind of take a look at has picture perfect textbook setup. So you guys are going to have plenty of opportunities this week. Really hope you don't miss out as we get into it, all right? So bullish on the dollar. Over to the JPY, and we have still a bit of consolidation, guys. You can see prices definitely moving sideways for the time being, but we respected a demand level, and as the dollar dropped, we had a massive push up on the JPY, all right? So you can imagine that the UJ pair went down, right? Just letting you know that. So here again, because we pushed off the demand, guys, we could see the potential of it to continue rising, but we have plenty of liquidity to the downside that it has not swept yet, right? So with the dollar now looking bullish, right, we're coming from a resistance area on the JPY where it can turn bearish. So to sweep that liquidity, tap into demand, and then take off to the upside from there. But for now, definitely bearish on JPY. So you want to be looking to buy the non-dollar or the non-JPY base pairs, all right? AJ, EJ, CJ, GJ, UJ, NJ, all of them, all right? Look for those buying opportunities as JPY is bearish, right? Moving over to odd dollar. Again, textbook setup here, guys, right? So we broke the low, made the new low, did a little, pulling back to this area of resistance. We got the drop from there, but then we went right back to the previous low that we made. We respected it, and now we're pushing up into a supply zone, guys. So this is quite simple, right? Knowing the cycle, knowing the structure, when a downtrend structure, breaking lows, right? So we're just wanting to get in from the high. So we just need price to get into supply, right? And then from there, we expect odd dollar to fall, all right? So 1 to 3 on that, risking 22 for 87. That's giving you almost 1 to 4 actually on dollar. All right, I'm bearish. Over to euro dollar. Very nice textbook setup, guys. Market structures very visibly clean and readable. Okay, guys. So again, breaking that low, making the new low, all of the pullback, right? That's engineered this liquidity on a bit of a rising wedge or even a bit of a head and shoulders, if you will, but mainly just engineering positions that people will sell from and place their stop losses behind. So now we're going to hunt those stop losses, right? Because they were engineered that way to be hunted, right? Get that, and then we'll push down on EU, and we're looking at 346 pips to the downside, guys. This should be one of your plays of the week, if not the play of the week, because again, this is the most traded pair in Forex, right, guys? And it's giving you a textbook setup for the drop, right? So euro dollar, I'm bearish, 346 pips once again on the table. All right, moving over to pound dollar. Look at that, right? Doesn't get any more beautiful than this, ladies and gents. All right, we got our engineered liquidity. We swept it right into supply, right? So it is definitely time for GU to drop, and we got 432 pips waiting for us on GU. All right, bearish on pound dollar. All right, over to New Zealand dollar, and you know, it's almost there, right? Not quite. So because we have two supply zones, guys, we want to get the one that's at the furthest or the highest, right? It's going to give you a better premium, all right, as well as a better risk to reward on your opportunity. All right, so 119 pips to the downside, bearish on New Zealand dollar. Again, watch out for the push up first. Make sure it gets to your zones before you look for that sell. It may drop before then, but if you happen not to catch that, oh well, right? You don't want to catch it as it's not in the zones just yet, all right? Because it can act like it's going down, right, to induce more sellers, right? And then it hunts you guys, and then it finally drops, which is, again, what you expected it to do. But when you don't understand manipulation, right, then you get caught, all right? Bearish on New Zealand dollar. Right, over the dollar CAD, and again, just textbook setups, guys. Right, breaking the high, making the new high, massive pullback to the demand area with wick rejection, guys. This is just picture perfect. They're just putting in our laps this week. All right, we had to do a lot of waiting for these setups, but they're finally here. Right, guys. So 101 pips to the upside. I'm bullish on dollar CAD. Right, don't forget we got CAD news on Friday, I believe it was. All right, but here over on dollar CHF, if you guys remember last week, it was consolidating a lot. Said that because of this, it was engineered liquidity, plus we had imbalance sitting above our demand zones that price did not go to collect yet. So on Friday, it did the collection, right? Took all week, but it finally did it, and now we're looking at an opportunity to see dollar CHF rise. But again, I am skeptical of price getting lower, all right? Especially with it having news later on in the week, right? There's still money sitting here that the Swiss franc can probably collect before rising. So I won't be looking to buy right away on the Swiss franc, even though I am bullish. Just letting you guys know that if you're looking to trade this pair, you want to give it a little bit more time to see if it's going to do the collection, right? To know when it is time to buy is if price gets right back above the level that it broke. If you get a candle that closes above that level, then you can go ahead and start looking for your buying opportunity from there. Getting it to this high, maybe this one, and then at the end, probably that one, just depending on how price decides to play out and if there's any economic news affecting it, right? Dollar CHF, guys, just waiting for a little deeper drop, but after that, I'm bullish for sure. All right, moving over to dollar JPY, and like I said, the dollar was weak and the JPY was strong, and there we had a nice drop on that Friday, 200 pips in 8 hours, guys. Ridiculous, right? But that is how it goes when economic news is sitting behind a good setup. All right? But it did what it needed to do, which was sweep that engineered liquidity, balance out, and tap into our demand zone, guys. My team had a buy limit sitting here. We were actually in the buy from here. So we caught all this, and then as price pulled back, it just brought us right back to our entry. So it's funny how that goes. But, you know, we have another opportunity this week to get in the same price that we got in last week. So we can have two positions running with a very nice risk to reward of almost 1 to 5, right? 91 for 374. I'll take that any day of the week. Bullish on dollar JPY. Right, over to pound odd, and we're at a major demand area now, guys. So we take a look at this. Right there it is. Right, see it better. Okay, so there's a lot going on, but ultimately we're looking for the buying opportunity from this level of demand. Right, this is a double top. Right, we broke the neckline. And we did have some sort of pullback, but you can see that we didn't really mitigate that fair value gap. Neither did we tap into any one of these supply levels that sit here that initially broke this low, right? Making that double top official by this candle breaking the neckline, right? So we got the pullback right to the neckline, and then we got another drop. But now we're sitting at a major demand level. So there's possibilities, guys, for us to hit this supply, possibly drop, hit this fair value gap, possibly drop, as well as get to our major supply area and then possibly drop. So the double top is giving us the bearish reversal, right? And we're getting it at the very beginning of this, which is very special and, you know, allows you guys to, you know, ride this out for quite some time. But we're not quite ready for more of a drop just yet because we've had significant drop last week, right, guys? So we're just going to get some sort of push up to one of these levels before we get the next drop. So just know that I'm overall bearish on pound odd, but just right out the gate, I'll be looking for it to rise up to this level, possibly the FVG, and then from there, I'll be looking to sell as I would be at a higher price than where price currently is. All right, that's what we do, guys. We sell high, right, and we buy low. It's low right now, we're going to buy. When it gets a little higher, we're going to sell, and we take advantage of both sides. Right, if you want to know how to get down, right, come holler at me, Bain.com, and get in the mix. All right, bullish then bearish on pound odd, right? Pound cat. So pound cat, my team has been waiting for it to drop. And we've got a nice structure here on the 1 hour time frame. What you guys can see is we're failing to break these highs, right? And we just broke this high structurally within, you know, this range, if you will. So structurally, we just broke a high, and now we're starting to pull back after breaking that high. So we have a key point of interest right down here to the support level. How interesting is it that price has bounced from this high to this low, back to the same high that it did before, and then it came down to the same low that it did before. Now we're at the same high we were at before. What do you guys think is going to happen? Right? Almost like taking candy from a baby, right? I know you guys understood that without understanding everything, but the concepts are like that. Very simple when they're explained to you in a simple way. All right, so ride with me. We go. With that being said, we're going to see price get down to the same area it previously did before, like it's been showing us, guys. So on pound CAD, I'm bearish, and I do believe that we're at the beginning of the reversal with the triple top, right? So once we break that neckline, we'll get that pullback, guys, and then it'll be lights out on pound CAD. Looking at it from a higher time frame, you guys can see, oh boy, right? We're looking at over 358 points to that next level of demand that initiated the break of this high. All right, guys, plenty of liquidity and imbalance to the downside on pound CAD. This should be one of your go-to plays for the week, along with euro dollar, right, for the drop. All right, guys, bearish on pound CAD. Moving over to pound CHF, and same exact thing, guys. Bit of a double top here. We broke the neckline, push down, and now we're getting that pullback, all right, to the neckline, to our supply area. Pretty sure this is pretty defined on the lower time frame, but regardless, I expect price to push up on pound CHF first, tap into supply, and then we'll get the drop down to the demand area for 203 pips, guys. I'm bearish on pound CHF. Right, pound JPY. Once again, JPY looks to be weak. All right, like it's gonna, well, it wants to rise right now, but it has liquidity to the downside that it may collect, which make it weak, causing the pound JPY to rise. All right, but when it does that, all right, guys, from this area, it will be looking to drop once again because liquidity would have been swept on the JPY index, and it will be ready to rise to the upside. So overall on JPY, I'm bearish on it, but I'm looking for it to rise significantly, possibly up to the supply area before dropping once again. So we're talking about 80 pips, guys, to the upside before we get to the demand area for over 399 pips. All right, bullish, then bearish on JPY. Over to New Zealand dollar, we have a nice bullish flag pattern here on the 4-hour. Look at it on the 2-hour, we can see it in more detail, and you guys can see that we have a buying opportunity, right? Sometimes it'll bounce right off of the trend line and just take off, right? So you may want to take your opportunity now if you believe that it will do that. But because there's huge imbalance here, I believe we're going to get that taken care of before we get the rise up, completing that pattern. All right, but anything's possible here, guys. We just got to wait it out, because again, like I said, we could break out right away, or we can continue to kind of consolidate in between until it actually feels like, you know, doing its move, right? So on selling, guys, I'm bullish, right? Just waiting for that drop, and then I'll be getting in from the demand area. Again, you can simply put a buy limit here now with a 27 pip stop loss, looking to make 210 pips to the upside, and that'll do you justice. All right, moving over to silver, and boy, oh boy, do we have a nice setup on silver dropping, guys. Broke the low, made the new low, all of our pullback, engineering liquidity. Then they tried to really give us that drop, but then they said, no, we're going to go ahead and do what we know we needed to do, which was take that engineered liquidity, mitigate that supply area, and now it's getting ready to drop, guys. So very, very nice setup on silver for the drop. It is ready to go right out the gate. So again, if you want to trade it this Sunday, you know, feel free to get into it, but later in the night. And if anything, you know, just wait until Monday. It won't, you know, won't escape you too far, right? But bearish on silver. Right, moving over to gold, and it had a nice falling wedge into this demand area. News caused it to completely shoot up. I do believe because now the dollar is bullish, we're going to get a nice pullback to this area from where price took off, breaking this high. So we're going to see gold give us a nice drop just about to here, all right, before we see any potential rise continuing on gold. Right, so just initially out the gate this week, I'm bearish on gold for a 40-point move. That's 400 pips on gold, guys. Right, so again, bearish on gold. Moving over to natural gas, and again, natural gas is giving us great market structure. Right, so we've gotten the break of the trend line, made the low, we pull back to the trend line, and then we drop once again. Just goes to show you these trend lines do actually mean something. Okay, so now that we've broken this low, we do expect price to pull back once again. But when it does, I believe we'll go ahead and fill in all the imbalance that we see here to this down move, which is very massive, right? Coming back, we got about 50% of that if we, you know, pull a Fibonacci on it. But that's still not taking away any of the imbalance that sits here or mitigating that supply zone. So we're probably going to rise up to that before we get the drop, and that's what I'll be looking for on natural gas. But who knows, we may also just continue to fall before we ever really get back up this way. So, you know, just got to see how that goes, right? But I am bearish on, or bullish initially on natural gas, and then when we get to supply, I'll be bearish. Right, moving over to crude oil. All right, so here's one that's been smacking us around as we were looking for that buying opportunity from the low. It would rise, but then it would come back down and consolidate and do a little dance. And it seems like I haven't learned a lesson, right? I'm back in oil, probably for the 6th time for the buy, guys. And I'm looking for it to get to the supply zone. We definitely could get a little higher, as we do have imbalance, above that supply zone. But I'll be aiming for this first, and then seeing if anything will cause it to continue pushing. But when we look at this from a higher time frame, just want to let you guys see the possibility, right? And see that we can definitely get up to this swing high, and we're talking about a $7 move from 63 to 70, right? That's 700 pips on oil, all right, and potentially higher to go and get whatever sits behind here, all right? So we're talking well over, 16-point move, right, on oil. So this is the reason I'm bullish, guys, and we'll get it once it's ready to go, right? So bullish on oil, right? SPY. Right, again, dollar looks bullish. I'm expecting SPY to drop. Gave us a massive push up with huge imbalance, right? Sweeping this liquidity as well as tapping into this supply area. So right now, SPY looks very good for the drop, and I will be selling it, as soon as possible, when it's ready. But it's better, guys, if you do it during the New York session. That way you can have some volatility behind your move and it won't consolidate on you much, right? But bearish on SPY. So I'm put my position on. It'll look like this. I'll probably catch it a little higher, right? There. And I can take my take profit to the first structure, which is good enough, right? 129 points on SPY is definitely bragging rights. All right, so bearish on SPY. All right, NAS, right, same exact thing. Broke, got to change the character from this up move, right? Finally got that, and so now this was the indication that we can be heading down. We did just that. We found demand. News pushed it up. I believe we're going to tap into supply one last time, and then we're going to get the drop on NAS, and again we can aim for this structured low, right? It's a bit of a demand area as well. That's 690 points for just 108, guys. I'm bearish on NAS. Last but not least, SPY. Look at the consolidation, guys. Long time, right? From 814 all the way to 822. Okay, very painful knowing that there's an opportunity, and then it comes just one day out of 7. Right, and this is why patience is the name of the game. All right, so here on the 1 hour, we can't really see what happened in this high point of when price broke out. But if we get lower, right, we can start to see that structure a lot better. Here on the 5-minute, now we're seeing that this is the highest we've been on US30, and since then we've been kind of pushing down, but we've been respecting this strong low, right? So because of that, US30 is still bullish, all right? Not like NAS and SPY where they're way more bearish, even though they will push up a little bit first. But here, they're not, the structure is still bullish. It's not as bearish as NAS and SPY. So what we need is for price to break below this low, right? If it gives us this, right, now we're cooking, right? Because now we have plenty of imbalance to fill in a demand area that can be mitigated. So we'll look for that pull back, potentially to where we broke, maybe a little higher, right? And then from there, we're looking for our selling opportunity, guys, right down to this area. And if we do that, we're looking at get away with an 88-point stop, right? And we'll be making 536 points to the downside on this 30. All right, guys, looking at it once again from a higher time frame, see that we can even get as low as the bottom of this consolidation. Liquidity was swept above it, and now we've engineered a high, or we made a new high to go and sweep the liquidity sitting behind that consolidation. So again, 500 to this point, but another 400, right? So almost 1,000-point move on US30 is on the table, guys. Look at what it did here. We're on the 4-hour time frame, and these are 3 candles that made pretty much 1,000-point move. So it took more than 8 hours. All right, whatever, 4 times 12 hours roughly to get us about 1,000 points on US30. So clearly we can make that in a day, as this week begins, guys. So don't sleep on US30, all right, for the drop. Just wait for it to break below that change of character on the 5-minute time frame. And when that happens, guys, then it's going to be, your opportunity to look for price to rise, to get into it for a sell, and, be able to catch potentially 1,000 points in less than a day on US30. All right, that is a huge payday if you swing any kind of lot size on US30 from a mini to a standard, right, guys? And that will do it. All right, so again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, right? And check out forexwithbain.com if you're trying to actually learn how to do this and have a good understanding of what you're doing. That's the best place to go, right? But you guys know, school is back, football is back. We'll have everyone stay safe, right? And fellas, finally back. All right. But guys, in the meantime, y'all know what it is. It's your boy. Peace.
Wanna get money? Wanna get paid? That's Forex. Like a sensei, then you know you gotta come and swing my way. And if you wanna fast forward, hit replay.